UA's new high-tech security system is unveiled, a group of civilians try to kick Midoriya off of the school campus, and Uraraka takes a stand for our beloved green-haired protagonist. Let's talk about all of this and more as we dive right into the newest chapter of My Hero Academia. So My Hero Academia Chapter 323 is finally out, and with it we get to see Izuku Midoriya's grand return to UA High School. What's it been, like a week? 3 months? 6 years? Who knows? All we know is that our beloved baby boy is finally back at his school, once again returning the meaning of academia in the series title. I mean, Midoriya went on a bit of a wild one for a while there, so rather than being called My Hero Academia, it should have been called something more like My Hero Rogues. Shit, that's actually a pretty cool name. I call dibs, I call dibs! In this chapter, Principal Nezu updates us on UA's new super advanced high-tech security systems. We learn about the UA refugees' hatred for heroes and Midoriya, and Uraraka steps up when no one else will to ensure Midoriya's safety. But before I begin talking about this chapter, I'm first going to go into a quick summary of what happened last time. And as usual, don't forget to Detroit smash that like button and slide into that subscribe button's DMs to hit that notification bell. In the last chapter, we saw Mr. Exit Sign himself, Tenya Ida, finally catch up to and capture Class 1A's baby gun rogue Izuku Midoriya, and after doing so, like the sun to Icarus's wings, Ida ripped his friend from the sky, causing the two flightless heroes to terrifyingly plummet towards the earth. I'm still not sure what exactly they were planning with this maneuver. By some miracle, however, both Ida and Midoriya were caught and saved from an excruciating death by 1A's resident red-haired hard boy Kirishima, and not long after landing, the rest of Class 1A all arrived onto the scene to finally have a civilized talk with their long-lost child. Midoriya, in typical Midoriya fashion, gave his whole "I'm doing this for your sake" spiel, but Bakugo was having none of it. And in surprising non-Bakugo fashion, Katsuki confessed his true feelings to Midoriya. Not for Midoriya, to Midoriya. Was the title of my last chapter clickbaity as all hell? Absolutely, 100%. But did it specifically say Bakugo had feelings for Midoriya? Technically, no. So to everyone who gave out about the misleading title, y'all can suck it. Although I 100% made that title to be as clickbaity and misleading as possible, so I'm sorry for telling you to suck it. But anyway, after Bakugo apologized for being an asshole all his life to Izuku, Midoriya did just as any Bakugo fanboy did, including myself, and fell unconscious due to the sheer power of Bakugo's character development. When Midoriya eventually awoke, he found himself at UA High School, where he was greeted by a fortress wall and dozens upon dozens of people who despised his very presence. It's like he never left. And Chapter 322 came to an end with Uraraka grabbing onto her boy toy's hand, preventing him from running away and reassuring him that everything is going to be okay. And this is where Chapter 323 picks up. This chapter opens up with a flashback to the students in Principal Nezu's office just before they went under grand hunt for the beast known as Deku. Ida mentions how he thinks that bringing Midoriya back to the school peacefully and safely will help to reassure everyone on the campus of their safety and aid in calming their nerves. However, Principal Nezu himself disagrees, saying that although Midoriya is the hero's trump card in this battle against the League, he is also the villain's #1 target. So, bringing him back to UA without having it properly fortified would just make the school's residents extremely uncomfortable. Nezu mentions how UA's defensive technology is the greatest in the country, rivaling that of even Tartarus Prison. Although, as Momoya Yorozu rightfully mentions, that means absolutely nothing to the League, who have not only already broken into and destroyed Tartarus, but they have also technically already broken into UA way back in Season 1. But I mean, come on, back then the security system was just a gate. Any wannabe criminal and their lover sidekick could bypass that security. But it's here where the Rat Bear Cat principal happily informs his students that they need not worry. As it turns out, Principal Nezu has been adding his own modifications and adjustments to the system. And now not only is UA basically a fortress, but it can also move. That's right, UA, a big-ass high school campus, can move. Howl's Moving Castle better watch out, because now we got Nezu's Moving Campus. Principal Nezu goes on to explain that the underground area at and surrounding UA has been covered with 3,000 layers of fortified metal plates, and these metal plates have been fitted with sensors to detect any sort of disturbance in the nearby nearby area. If a disturbance is detected, the UA campus, which has now been divided into several smaller sections that are each connected to different engined transportation devices, will be transported to an underground shelter, and from there they can take numerous different routes and underground passages to basically anywhere across Japan. In simple terms, bad guy appear, UA goes underground, splits off into different sections, and each section can move underground through different tunnels. It's pretty goddamn insane when you think about it, and definitely the most sci-fi-esque thing this series has pulled off. But the real icing on the cake is that this underground system is directly connected to Shiketsu High School, meaning that the two schools can transfer heroes from one to the other at will. So this underground system has the ability to transport entire schools from one side of Japan to the other. Bullet trains, eat your heart out. After hearing all of this, Kaminari rightfully loses his mind, calling it something out of a mech anime, and Tokoyami brings up the excellent point that this getaway system seems to be specifically made to deal with Shigaraki's decay quirk, which is very strange, considering this entire defense system has been in construction since the cultural festival, well before they knew the true power of Shigi's decay abilities. Tokoyami bringing up the good points. Nezu's response to this question is that it was purely intuition, and he laughs off about how he paid for all of it using his own money, which is sketchy as hell if you ask me. I mean, Midoriya is now overtired and vulnerable in a school that can basically move to any part of Japan, which also has an unknown traitor. This chapter tries to explain why Nezu isn't the UA traitor, but it seems to me that it is the perfect setup for him to turn sides. Not only could he separate the heroes into different sections, forcing them to travel all over Japan underground, but he could also deliver Midoriya directly to All for One and Shigi in the school. Plus, UA being the final destination for the battle between All for One and One for All seems very fitting for a series titled My Hero Academia. But anyway, ranting aside, Endeavor, who is also there, informs the kids that Nezu has made such incredible contributions to the education and development of quirks that he is held in high regards worldwide. So not only does it make sense how he could have got assistance in making the new security system, but it also makes sense why he is doing so much for them now. And this conversation ends with Nezu saying that if they all can work together, even if it's just one step at a time, then he has no doubt that they will find a way forward despite what the world may look like now. The story then cuts back to the present, where we see the group of civilians protesting Deku's entry back into UA. The group shout out that they were promised to be kept safe, and that Midoriya being there will do nothing but put them in danger. During this shouting, we also get a few quick shots of Mama Bakugo holding on to Mama Midoriya, trying to make her way to her son in the crowd, Eri being comforted by Monoma with Class 1B, who are looking down on the protest from the school, and Ragdoll with Kota, who seems to be scared to see his hero in such a state. Number 13 informs Class 1A that initially there were a few people who felt safe in UA's defenses, but now after all this time, they are all scared and afraid. Seeing this mass panic kick in, Mr. Blue Jeans, Best Jeanist, steps forward and informs the angry mob that he was the one who brought Midoriya to UA. He explains that they tried to use Deku to attract the villains out of hiding, but it didn't work. And he says that even though Deku is Shigaraki's target, he is also the hero's greatest weapon. So while he is aware that it's not the ideal situation, he pleads with the crowd, asking that they allow Midoriya to come in and rest up, so he can protect them with his full power. Unfortunately, however, this doesn't get through to the mob at all. In fact, after hearing what Best Jeanist had to say, the civilians seem to get even angrier, saying that the country is only in such chaos because the heroes failed, and now, because they failed again, the heroes unjustly want to force the civilians to take this risk. This yelling, panic, and anger continues to grow louder and louder, until Uraraka takes President Mike's megaphone, uses her quirk on herself, and floats over the protesters, going straight to UA's rooftops, where she begins to make a speech. Uraraka begins by saying that Deku does indeed have a special power, and it's because of this power that he had to leave UA in the first place. And the fact of the matter is, if it was up to him, he would have never returned, even if his life was on the line, just so he could keep everyone safe. The only reason he is back now is because Day dragged him back after an arduous conflict. Uraraka continues asking the civilians if they have taken a good look at how Deku looks after taking all of this burden by himself and leaving. And with this, we get a quick close-up of Midoriya's now claw-like arms and feet. Uraraka informs the mob that Deku is the one person who wants more than anything to do something to change the current state of things, and that he kept moving forward and pushing onwards for the sake of everyone else, even though he knew he could be attacked at any moment. We then see that amongst this crowd of people is the giant fox-like woman who probably awakened many new furries that Deku saved in chapter 310, and she steps forward saying that Midoriya is the boy who saved her. Uraraka, finishing up her speech, shouts out that having a special power doesn't make Izuku special, which kind of sounds like an insult, but probably just means that although he has a special quirk, he is human just like everyone else. Bakugo then appears at Deku's side, saying that the civilians desperately rioting and ignoring the security system is an example of what he told him in the last chapter, that if there is something Deku can't handle by himself, then he just needs to leave it to them. And with this, chapter 323 comes to an end as Nezu looks up at Uraraka shouting at the crowds, acknowledging that taking the first step is always hard. However, he thinks that this step in particular will lead to the birth of a true hero. A hero that will surpass even All Might. Overall, this was an alright chapter. The unveiling of UA's new security system was most definitely a surprise, and its connection to Shiketsu High has got my hopes up in seeing the return of the likes of Inasa and Kami. I mean, Shiketsu is a school that's supposedly on par with UA, so it's very surprising we haven't seen more of these students in action already. Seeing Mama Midoriya, Eri, and Kota was a pleasant surprise, and Uraraka getting to stand up and fight for her boy toy Izuku was great to see. However, I do think this chapter did let down in a few areas. Firstly, while the new defense system is super cool, having Nezu's reasoning for building it before he even knew the full extent of Shigaraki's quirk being his intuition seems very much like a cop-out. To me, it's like if Batman covered the Batcave in kryptonite before he even knew it was Superman's weakness. Why is it so specifically perfect for keeping away threats you never knew existed? Now, if it turns out that Nezu is the traitor, then yes, it would make perfect sense. But there is a big part of me that thinks they're just going to pass it off as it was a product of Nezu's super intelligence. Also, even though it was great to see Uraraka in the spotlight, I didn't really feel that her speech was that impactful. Maybe I'm just withered down from the previous chapters bombarding us with people saying how great Deku is and how much he is struggling for everyone else, but I felt like Uraraka's speech lacked emotion and just wasn't as powerful as they were playing it out to be. But let me know what you think of this chapter. If you like this video, don't forget to leave a like and comment what you think is going to happen next. For more My Hero content, subscribe to the Lunchtime crew. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Plus Ultra.